Let us begin by reading the word problem out loud. A barista at a coffee shop worked 24 hours in 1 week and earned $264. How much money was a barista making per hour? Now let's begin our strategy for problem solving. Our first step is always to analyze a problem, so let's go ahead and do so. When analyzing the first problem, the very first thing you want to do is identify what's being asked. In this case, the question is, how much money was a barista making per hour? So that's what we want to determine. And now that we know what it is we want to find, we can go ahead and assign a variable, which is step 2. So let us begin by assigning a variable. In this case, we'll use the variable x, and again, any variable will do. So here we go. The question was, how much money was the barista making per hour? So our x is going to represent the amount of money the barista was making per hour. Again, it's simply the question restated in the form of a statement. So now, let's see what other information we can extract. Well, what else do we know? We know that the barista at the coffee shop worked 24 hours in 1 week. And we also know that the barista earned $264. So if you've already had a job, then you kind of know how it works. You have a pay, an hourly wage that you're paid per hour. And then depending on the amount of hours you work, you multiply the two, and then you get a total paycheck. So following that same ideology, let's go ahead and create a general outline for our equation. So this is a generic form of what it's going to actually look like. So let me go ahead and color code all that. So there we go. So ideally it's going to be the hours worked multiplied by the hourly wage, which is the amount you're being paid per hour, and that's going to equal your total pay or your total paycheck. So let's go ahead and color code this. So the hours worked, according to the statement, a barista at a coffee shop worked 24 hours in 1 week. So we're going to go ahead and color code that blue just to match it up. So again, the hours worked is in blue, which is 24 hours. And now the hourly wage. This is what we're actually looking for. So we don't actually know what this value is, but we do know it's going to be represented by a variable x, which is color-coded in green. So we'll go ahead and color-code that in green as well. And then the total pay. Lastly, the total pay is the amount she earned, and we know she earned a total of $264, which is represented by the color red. So here we go. This is a generic outline for our equation. So now let's go ahead and fill things in. The hours worked, well, we know that to be 24. So we'll go ahead and substitute in the 24. And we're going to multiply that by the hourly wage, which we don't actually know what the numerical value of that is, but we do know it's represented by the variable x. So we'll go ahead and substitute an x for that. And that product is going to be equal to the total pay, which is 264. For now, we'll just do it without the units, so we'll do 264 even. So that's going to be our equation. So our equation is going to be 24x equals 264. And again, the first step in solving the equation is always to start off with the original equation you found in step 3. So now we're going to go ahead and solve the equation. When solving the equation, you want to identify the x variable, and we want to get this variable all by itself on one side. So currently, all the x's are on the left, and there's no x's on the right, so that's a good start. Now, the only problem is that since we want to get the x by itself, we want to eliminate this 24 in front of the x. Now, we have 24 times x, so we have the operation of multiplication on the left-hand side. Now, the only way to eliminate multiplication is through the opposite operation. Since the opposite operation of multiplication is division, we're going to go ahead and have to divide both sides. The question is, what do we divide both sides by? Well, since we want to eliminate the 24, we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 24. So go ahead and write out the original equation. And then again, we're going to divide both sides by 24 in order to eliminate that multiplication of 24. There we go. So on the left hand side we're going to have 24 divided by 24, which is going to be equal to 1. So ideally we have a 1x on the left, but that's simply the same thing as just x. And now on the right hand side, we're going to have 264 divided by 24. So we'll go ahead and carry out this division off to the side of scratch work. So 264 divided by 24, the 264 goes on the inside, and the divisor, which is 24, goes on the outside. So we have to ask ourselves, how many times does 24 go into 26? The answer is once. So we're going to have 1 times 24 is going to give us a 24. We're going to go ahead and subtract these two, and we'll end up with a 2 as a remainder. Now we bring down the 4, and we end up with 24. And we ask ourselves again, how many times does 24 go into 24? The answer is once. So 1 times 24 is 24. And we're going to go ahead and subtract these two, and we end up with the remainder of 0. So 264 divided by 24 is equal to 11. And there we go. So lastly, we want to go ahead and state our conclusion clearly. Since the question asked how much money was a barista making per hour, we want our conclusion to reflect the question. So let us go ahead and state our conclusion. So in this case, we'll go ahead and write, the barista was making $11 per hour. So again, the question was how much money was a barista making per hour? And our response is going to be, ideally, the question reworded in the form of the statement. And in this case, we respond with, the barista was making $11 per hour. So now let us go ahead and check the result. Again, when checking the result, you always want to start off with the original equation created in the step 3. So that is 24x equals 264. And we'll just go ahead and color code the x just to remain consistent. So go ahead and color code that in green. And now what we want to do is we want to substitute in the value of x with 11. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we're going to have 24. So again, everything else is going to remain the same. And we're just going to substitute in the value for x, which is 11. So on the left-hand side, we have to multiply 24 by 11. And on the right-hand side, we just go ahead and bring down the 264. So we'll do 24 times 11 off to the side of scratch work. So we'll do 24 multiplied by 11. So we'll do 1 times 4, which is 4. And then 1 times 2, which is 2. We bring a 0 down as a placeholder. And now we're going to do 1 times 4, which is again 4. And then 1 times 2, which is also 2. Then we go ahead and add these up. So 4 plus 0 gives us a 4. 2 plus 4 gives us a 6. And we bring down the 2, and we end up with 264. So on the left-hand side, 24 times 11 is 264. And we always ask ourselves, is 264 equal to 264? In this case it is. It always is, actually. So therefore we know that our solution is correct.